Okay, so let's dive into how Fearn works. I'm going to go over the following topics, and each will have timestamps linked below for easy reference. First, onboarding and setup. Second, cross-listing. Third, revise. Fourth, the update feature. Fifth, goal setting and analytics. Next, expenses, returns, and bookkeeping. And then finally, team member integration and task management. If along the way you have any issues or questions, please reach out to us using the chat icon in the bottom right-hand corner of Fearn. Matt, my business partner, will be there to answer your question as soon as possible. All right, let's start with onboarding. If you haven't started cross-listing yet, onboarding is super simple and straightforward. If you've already started cross-listing, we designed the onboarding process to be as simple and straightforward as possible, but we also want to keep you in the loop. If we try to fully automate everything, it could lead to errors or mismatches. So we created a process that's both easy and also maintains accuracy. If you're cross-listed, onboarding is a really great time to audit your business. For instance, when I was onboarding onto Fearn, I realized that I had several pieces of inventory that I had listed on Poshmark but not on eBay that were supposed to be on eBay. And I also found out that my virtual assistant had listed so many of my small listings as extra small on eBay, which is not good. So it's actually a really great time to also notice any SKU or pricing discrepancies and so forth. So let's go over how it works. You'll start your free trial of Fearn by clicking the sign up button and entering in your information. Once you're signed in, you'll want to download the Chrome extension. So click on the settings icon on the top right hand corner and then click on the link to download that extension. Then you'll be able to connect your marketplaces. Fearn currently supports the 3 biggest reselling platforms in the US: eBay, Poshmark, and Mercari. Once your marketplaces are connected, it's time to bring in your listings. Go to the inventory tab and click import. Select a marketplace, click the button load all, and then click select all, and then click import. If you've already been cross-listing in your business, you'll want to import your listings from all marketplaces. You can do all 3 marketplaces at once, but just be sure that you keep your browser open and your computer awake while it's importing. As long as your computer will stay on, you can just start import right before bed and then go to sleep, and when you wake up, it'll be done. But if not, it's a great time to get it running and then work on other stuff. If you wanted to do some work within Fearn while you're importing your active inventory, now would be a great time to start adding expenses to the expense tracker, which we'll cover later in the video. Okay, so if you have not yet started cross-listing in your reselling business, you can skip this next step and move on to importing sales. But if you've already been cross-listing within your reselling business, it's time to move on to the next step of onboarding, which is merge. This is the step of onboarding that I was referring to earlier that does take a bit of time depending on how many listings you have. However, it's essential in order for Fearn's features to work. And again, it's a great time to audit your inventory. With merge, we're essentially going to match your separate listings of the same item on eBay, Poshmark, and Mercari and merge them into one listing on Fearn. And FYI, the merge feature will not make any changes to your listing in any way. So for instance, if you have different prices on Mercari and Poshmark, that will stay the same if you merge them on Fearn. This is just so Fearn knows that these listings are for the same item. So you're going to go to inventory and click on the merge button. On the left-hand side, you'll select one of your listings, and then on the right-hand side, Fearn will suggest matching listings from your other marketplaces. Just review the suggested matches, select the correct ones for each platform, and then hit merge. And then do that over and over again until you've merged all of your inventory. A quick tip, if you've titled items differently on different marketplaces, you may need to manually search for your items. So just use the search bar and enter a keyword you used in the title on every marketplace, and you should be able to find your listings on each marketplace and merge them. This is a great time to pop on your favorite podcast or favorite TV episode, and you should be able to get through this in a relatively short amount of time. I promise it's worth it. Okay, last step of onboarding is importing sales. Head on over to the sold page. There's a button called import, and this is about the only time you'll use this button. After this, we'll use the update feature, which we'll discuss in a bit. I want to make this point. The difference between import and update is that import is for bringing in all the sales that happened before you started using Fearn, and update is going to bring in sales for items that are in your active merged inventory within Fearn. So for import sales, our goal is to get our bookkeeping and analytics up to speed before we really start using Fearn. I recommend importing all the sales that happened within the calendar year. So grabbing all of your sales starting January 1st of the year you're in. So click import and then click on your marketplace. Select all the sales that you want to import and then click import. Your sold data, shipping info, and more will all be brought in. If you ship off of that platform, for instance, I ship on Pirate Ship through Mercari, you'll need to add that info manually. So in order to do that, you'll just click on your listing, which brings you to the sold details page, click edit and enter in any missing info. But after that, give yourself a pat on the back because you did it. Onboarding is over and you're ready to take full advantage of all of Fearn's features. Okay. Cross-listing. So you're done with onboarding and now you're ready to list something new. There are a few different ways to do this. First, you can list on Poshmark, eBay, or Mercari and then import that listing and cross-list, or you can list directly from Fearn to all three. I'll go over both ways. So let's say you wanted to list on eBay and then import and cross-list to Poshmark and Mercari. You'll list on eBay as you normally would, then on the inventory page, click on import and import your listing. Then you can go to that listing, click on Poshmark, enter any missing details, and click publish. Then do the same with Mercari. The other way to do this is listing directly from Fearn. And I like listing this way because I find it's the most efficient. So start by creating a new draft and then add your photos and enter all the details onto the basic form. If you enter your cost of goods at the bottom here, that will transfer to your bookkeeping and analytics when the item sells. But you also have the option to update that later if you want to. After filling out everything on basic, you can then go to eBay, Poshmark, Mercari tabs, fill out the missing info, and publish. It's super easy and saves so much time. All right, next up, revise. Another great thing about Fearn that is unique to our platform is that you can make changes to your listings from Fearn. So let's say you want to update a SKU. All you have to do is just make the change within Fearn, hit revise, and boom, it updates on the marketplace. No longer do you need to open up a tab for Mercari, Poshmark, and eBay. You can just do it all within Fearn. This isn't just a time saver, it's also really important for keeping your data accurate. Because the thing is, on other reselling softwares, if your listings aren't up to date within the software, you risk pushing incorrect info when you relist or pulling in the wrong details when something sells. With Fearn, everything stays in sync, and that's a big deal for running a reselling business smoothly. Okay, next up is the update feature. This is the feature I love most and the one I think your reselling business shouldn't run without. Now that you've onboarded and everything is merged, synced, and up to date, Update is going to do all of the heavy lifting in your reselling business. Once you make a sale, you'll go to the Sold tab and click Update. Okay, so here's what Update is going to do. First, it will pull in all of your sales, and then it will pull in all of your sales data, including sold price, platform fees, shipping fees, and more. Then it will delist the item on the platforms in which it didn't sell. And this includes Poshmark listings that have active offers on them, which is actually kind of a big deal because I hear from a lot of our users that other reselling softwares won't delist on Poshmark if offers are active on that item, which can and has led to double sales and lots of headaches. Anyways, Update will then automatically update your bookkeeping analytics with this info, and it will create a shipping list of all the items you sold and their SKUs. I cannot tell you how much of a huge difference this makes in my business. If I'm being 100% honest with you, even though I developed Fearn, it did take me a minute to let go of my spreadsheet because I'd just been using it for so long and I was so used to doing everything manually. So there were months where I was doing both Fearn and the spreadsheet, and I'd click update and it'd do everything in a couple of minutes, but then I would still be updating my spreadsheet 20 minutes later. And those 20 minutes didn't even include the delisting part, which I had been doing manually previously. I just cannot stress enough how much of a game changer Update is in your reselling business. It's all integrated, it does all the hard work for you so that you can spend more time doing the things that robots can't do for you, like thrifting. But again, okay, I need to reemphasize this. You need to have everything imported and merged in order for Update to work. So be sure you're onboarded properly before you click the update button. But then after you set yourself up for success with your onboarding, it's easy peasy. Okay, next let's talk about goal setting and analytics. This is my other thing that I absolutely love about Fearn, the goal setting feature. I love that every single time I log in, I'm greeted with my goal and how I'm performing against it. It really keeps me motivated, which is really important as someone who's my own boss and someone who's a solo entrepreneur. And there's science to back this up. For instance, one study from Dr. Gail Matthews showed that you're 76% more likely to achieve a goal just by regularly checking in on it. You can set your goal by going to analytics and clicking on the little pencil button next to the monthly goal. And once you enter it, it'll break down how many sales per day you need, how much you need to make in order to get on track, and what you're currently on track to make. And if you scroll down on the analytics page, you can see some other really important stats for the month, like how many items you've listed, your sell-through rate, your gross profit, etc. Analytics page will default to showing you the stats for the month, but you can also click on the calendar button to change it to whatever time frame you want to analyze. This analytics page is the one that I check in with daily, but I also like to periodically check in with the other tabs on the analytics page. The second tab breaks down my sales per platform and allows me to compare how I'm performing on Poshmark versus eBay versus Mercari. And then the next tab allows me to analyze what kind of inventory I'm selling. And the next tab allows me to analyze what kind of inventory I have in stock. These tabs can be super helpful, especially when you're doing a monthly or quarterly review of your performance. Next up is expenses, returns, and bookkeeping. Okay, now let's turn to the thorn in so many resellers' sides, bookkeeping. I know so many of us just spent hours and hours poring over our bookkeeping for the 2024 tax season, and maybe like I did, you've promised to yourself, never again. No more falling behind, no more long nights pulling your hair out, worrying that you missed something. Now you have a solution to that problem. Fearn is the integrated bookkeeping solution designed specifically for reselling. Your numbers stay updated in real time, so when tax season rolls around next year, you're already ready. Okay, so let's go ahead and check the bookkeeping tab. This is going to show your income statement or your profit and loss statement. I really like that you can look at the totals for the year, which is the default, but you can also use this little drop-down menu to display the columns by month. So you can compare your business performance month over month. And then as you continue to use Fearn over the years, you'll also be able to compare your performance year over year, which is super helpful. You can analyze your cost of goods, your fees, your shipping, your expenses. So speaking of expenses, let's turn to the expenses tab. Here you can enter in all of your expenses for your reselling business, from your stain treatment supplies that you buy at Dollar Tree to your promoted closet fees. Just click the create expense and enter in the details. Choose a category, which will be used for our bookkeeping, and you can also add an image of the receipt so that you have a record of that as well. On the expenses page is also a tab to keep track of mileage, which is a great thing to keep track of throughout the year, especially since as resellers, we drive to the thrift store so often. And then lastly, to help with one of the biggest headaches when it comes to bookkeeping for resellers, returns. When you have a returned or a canceled sale, you can go to your sold page, find that item, and then click the return/canceled button. Enter in any missing details and then click complete. This will all be accounted for in your bookkeeping, which is such a relief. And the thing is, it's really important to keep track of your canceled sales and your returns because those sales will be included in your 1099 that you receive from Poshmark, eBay, and Mercari. So you want to make sure that you're not paying taxes on those sales that were refunded. Okay, two more things that I want to mention really briefly: team member integration and task management. Fearn is all about helping you grow your reselling business, and one of the best ways to grow your business is to hire a virtual assistant or an employee. However, instead of training them about Poshmark, eBay, Mercari, spreadsheets, etc., Fearn allows you to train them in just one software. But maybe you don't want your virtual assistant or your team members to have access to your bookkeeping, etc. I totally get that. So we built a way to invite an employee or a team member to your Fearn account where they'll have their own login and be able to access just some of the tabs within Fearn, but not all of them. So for instance, they won't even have the bookkeeping tab. Just go to settings, click the employee management tab, and then click add employee. Then they'll receive an email and can set up their own linked account. And then lastly, we've got task management. This tool is great for creating to-do lists, both for you and your team members, because you can assign the task to anyone within your account, including the linked team members. All right, y'all, right before I was posting this video, I realized I forgot to tell you how to relist on Fearn. Yes, you can also relist on Fearn, so let's do that. Luckily, it's really easy. You just go to the inventory that you want to relist, select the marketplace that you want to relist the item on, and then this little drop-down menu has a bunch of different things that you can do, including unmerge, market sold, but we're going to relist. So click on that, click yes, and then it will relist the item for you. Easy peasy. If you want to see the item after it's been relisted, you can click view item, and voila, it's done. All right, y'all. Well, that is the walkthrough of how Fearn works. I honestly cannot imagine running my reselling business without it now. It easily saves me at least 20 minutes per day, which when you think about it, that's over 120 hours per year. And all of that time I save, I get to use it sourcing or photographing, or even better, spending time with my kids. And I get to sleep so much easier at night, knowing that my bookkeeping is accounted for, my cross-listed items are reliably delisted so I don't have double sales, and I'm on track to hit my sales goal, and so much more. And thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you in the next one. Okay, love y'all. Bye.